All right, figured I'd start up a different project. So this one's gonna be purely 3D printed. No carbon fiber, no molds, none of that. Here's the situation. This is my Harley. It's kind of a stunt bike. So when I did the conversion, I did 7/8 bars. And the problem with that is the OEM gauge attaches to the OEM bars, which I believe are 1 inch. And so what's going on is these can't mount to this, and the holes are offset different from my Pro Taper brackets. So needless to say, I cannot run the gauge properly. So in the past, what I did was I just made this little bracket out of a piece of metal, and it would get the job done. The problem is when I ride, the bracket is like this. So the gauge, when I put it on, it sits like this, and I really can't see the speed or anything unless I'm kind of leaning forward to take a look. So I figured with me having a 3D printer, I am going to 3D scan this area and then design my own little bracket that could kind of get the gauge to mount upright. And then I'm going to use a heat thread inserts into the 3D print, and it should be proper, visually appealing, and also functional. So I'm going to be using the Einstar 2 as always in laser mode. We're going to see how well this tracks. I 3D printed these all tracking features the other day, and I just want to see how well this will work, because it is, as you can see, all black on black. I'm not going to use any dueling spray, or at least I'm not going to at first. And what I need to do is 3D scan this area so I know where the holes are, as well as the tube, so I could make the design. Well, the tube is not as important as the holes, and this little area right here, so I can make the bracket design. And then I'm going to 3D scan the bar, probably separately, but we'll take a look at what we get. So as always, just gonna get into it. This is part of my little quick guide breakdown projects concept. So I'm gonna try to keep it short and sweet, straight to the point, a little more entertaining than dry, long, extended videos. All right, I got laser mode. I'm just doing a high scan, so 0.2. Everything else is default, and let's take a look at if it picks up the tracking or not. So the good thing is it's noticing the markers. Now we'll find out how well this actually works with everything being black on black. So, as you can see, not really any rocket signs here, just scanning away like I normally would. Here's the deal, because of this wire harness being attached, and I can't just, well, I could cut it, which I don't want to, which is why the gauge was left as is. I could only manipulate it so much until it's not long enough. So this is why we're kind of scanning in a very uncomfortable position. With that being said, the key elements that I need for my project, it's the distance between those two and those two holes, as well as this little offset. So everything that I need to be able to design and 3D print something, as well as the height of this, is perfect. So for me, this is gonna work great. The quality of the mesh looks awesome. I'm just gonna quickly mesh it, which is really useless because the point cloud is very accurate to what the final is gonna look like. So that's that. I'm gonna mesh it. Again, useless to really showcase, but as you can see, it looks just as good mesh as it did in the point cloud. So that's part one. Now what I'm gonna do is kind of linger this gauge over and scan the bars, because I do need to design around this. So we're gonna adjust a few things, and I'll do an update video of how that's looking. All right, so about to start scanning the bars. Now with the bars, I do need to make sure I get this information where these Pro Taper bars are. I need to have a rough idea of the diameter of this tube, so that way I could have a better idea of how to mount it best when I design my bracket. And then just pretty much all the real estate that I have to work with isn't much. So it will be a couple of test 3D prints before I have a final good foundation to work from. But anyhow, again, because it's all black on black with chrome, it's not the most ideal scanning foundation, but it's not bad with what I've seen. So I just place these markers honestly anywhere that they'll stay without me having to tape them down. And we'll see what we're about to get here in a second. Okay, so a little update. This is what we're looking at. Now, this was just me scanning as is with the little placeholders, and it's tough. Like, this is a very tough area. I don't have a lot of markers, so I'm not helping the scan either. So what I'm gonna do is, before I add more markers and probably stick them on the actual bars, I'm gonna throw a little doling spray on this and see how much of a difference just doling it up is gonna help with the 3D scan and the tracking of the features. Because honestly, it's so much dark black metal everywhere. It's probably not making the scanner's life any easier than it could be. So I'm gonna throw some doling spray on this real quick, and we'll take a quick look at how much of a difference that does. Okay, so here's the final scan. This is with tracking markers added to the bars and doling spray, and as you can see, this is plenty good. I'll still need to prototype and test print a few before I land on like a solution that works, but from what I need from the 3D scan perspective for designing, it's perfect. So I got my gauge, I got my bars with a little bit of clearance of the gas tank, so that way I know how much is what. Now I'm just gonna go on the computer and start designing away, and I'll share that that update once it's ready. But yeah, very good results, very quick scan. All right, and just an update in case anyone's interested, this is how it looks like. So stickers on the actual bars, doling spray, and some of these little quick little stand-in markers, as you can see, just slide around. So not much to it, but tracking markers are key for laser scan mode to be proper. So here was version 1, and I'll show the CAD drawing as well. And then here's version 2. So now, as you can see, when I sit on the bike, I can clearly see the gauge cluster. Now if I turn it on, you'll see the light. So this is very nice. The field of view is wonderful. I really like the way it looks too. It's very clean and elegant, if you will. Version 1, there was not a lot of meat on the bone that held the cluster up. So on version 2, what I did was I added like a little support area right there, as well as the back side. You could kind of see it, and I'll show it on the drawing as well on the 3D model. Now, it's feeling very nice. The only thing I think what I'll do is, just because of how bulky the top end is, and if I wheelie it, I'm afraid of like the weight, I'm gonna actually take this and extend it up even more, just to really add as much plastic as I can. And that will more or less be the final version for me to test it out on. Now what I'm actually doing here is I'm actually 3D printing the M8 by 1.25 threads into the element. So I did order thread inserts that I may end up using on the final, but for the moment I'm actually going to try to see if I could run it with the 3D printed threads and see how well that holds up. Because again, once I'm actually doing wheelies and landing wheelies, that's where the real abuse comes. But as you can see, for the most part, the wire, while it is a little too tight for my liking, it's enough little wiggle room where it's not ripping the cable. So if it does, I'll extend it at that point, whatever. But overall, we're close to being done. And actually, because it's just this wire right here. So I may end up just extending this one just to avoid any issues. Because I think when I go all the way out, like these have wiggle room, this one's really tight. So I'm just gonna slice into it and extend it on my own to avoid any issues. But that's about it for the moment. The design's working, everything fit actually perfectly, even on the first version. It's just this one doesn't have enough plastic for me to feel comfortable riding the bike and kind of abusing the mount. So I'm just gonna revise this design a little bit, and I'm gonna actually print the next one in ASA and see how that all comes out looking. All right, figured I'll do a little regroup of where we started and where we finished. So this was version 1, and this was more or less to test fitment and how the gauge would look. And overall, it fit perfect. The only issue was it was so thin, I knew the gauge would rip this whole top assembly off as soon as I landed a wheelie. That was kind of rough around the edges. So I went in and revised it with adding a solid foundation across and just really adding some more bracing to it. So this was already feeling really good. But then I was like, well, if I'm gonna do this and I have all this extra real estate, might as well try to revise it just a little bit more. So this was the final design right here, and I printed this test in PTG last night just to see how it would look like in person. I threw my little logo over here just for the hell of it in the middle. But as you can see, the edges go all the way to the top. It's looking nice and solid. And I honestly didn't even test fit it on the bike because I know everything else about it is good. And now that I look at it, I hope this doesn't get in the way of the gauge. So we'll figure this out here shortly. And this was the final. So this is printed with ASA GF. And as you can see, the texture looks really cool. It really helps hide the layer lines. The logo looks awesome. So this is the final unit that I'm gonna test on the bike and see how well it performs and holds up to me riding. So I guess what I'll do is go and test fit this one real quick. Make sure this ridge doesn't get in the way of the actual OEM cluster assembly. And if it doesn't, then we're in business. And unfortunately, if it does, then I may have to revise it to be a little bit more like this again. So we'll see here shortly. Okay, my little dog decided to join me. But anyhow, there was a reason why I did it. And the Harley one has an opening right there. So that actually fits really nicely. And I didn't extend the wire yet, so that's what I have to do before installing it on the bike. Because you can see from my wheel turned all the way, it's very, very hard on the wire. So I don't want to risk ripping it while riding or crashing, even worse. So I'm going to extend that wire so I have more flexibility. But overall, it looks fantastic. I'm very happy with it. I'm going to throw a bungee around this right now just to hold it upright until I extend the wire, probably tomorrow. And then I'll go take it out on a test ride and record a few wheelies and see if it snaps off or not. But that's it. That's as simple as this project was. And it was actually very smooth from start to finish. The scan quality is fantastic, and that helped design a product that fits perfect every time. It's just fine-tuning based on, you know, seeing what's wrong with it. But maybe this project video could help someone with some information, maybe not, I don't know, that's really up to you. But thanks for watching. All right, and the final reveal of it on the bike. As you can see, pretty nice clean install. I'm gonna throw some electrical tape or shrink, hose shrink, whatever you call it, around this to make it a little more clean. But overall, it's solid. Like, it's not making any weird noises. It looks good. I love the finish. The logo is subtle, but it's there. And when I'm on the bike, I have a very nice view of the gauge, which is exactly what I wanted. So overall, I'd say this was a success. So from the 3D scan to the modeling to even the look and feel of it, looks really nice in my opinion. And it has that Harley OEM indent, so that way this is like nice and snug. And yeah, it's just fantastic. So next step is to go out and do some wheelies and see how it holds up. All right.